Please be seated. You can sort of feel the stakes starting to rise today in our reading. You can sort of feel the pulse quickening and the face starting to get a little flushed. And I'm thinking of a poker game here. Are you all familiar with Texas Hold'em? Anybody here ever played Texas Hold'em? Liar! That's the face that says liar. Texas Hold'em is a game of poker. And I've not played it, but I've seen enough television. You know, it's on the channels all the time. But it's a game where I think you're just kind of trying to stay in the game. You're just trying to get through a hand after a hand after a hand until you get that hand that you think that you have a great advantage in. And unlike a lot of other poker games, when you get that hand, you're hoping to get somebody else in the pot with you, maybe two people. But if you think that it's your time, then you take all of your chips and you push them to the middle. You say, I'm all in. I'm all in. And if you win the hand, then of course they have to match the pot because you get all their chips or whatever you bet there, which is everything you had. And of course if you lose, you're out. Well, this idea of being all in is what I want to talk about today. And I think that it depends on the amount of money you had to bet, but would it be a terrifying moment to push all of everything to the middle and say, think of your 401k, right? I'm all in. Everything in Mark's gospel has been leading to this moment. Everything up to now has been about what Jesus has been up to, who Jesus is. He's going around to the different parts of the country, and he's performing miracles, and he's preaching, and he's teaching, and everything has been for one purpose, really for one question, kind of the heart of everything. And it happens right before what we heard today. I wish it would have been included. It should have been. It's not Deacon's Pat fault, of course. They give us the readings, you know. She doesn't pick them. Right? So I didn't want to make sure about that. We'll be stoned. But anyway, it should be included because here's what it says. It says, Jesus went on with his disciples to the village of Caesarea Philippi, and on the way he asked his disciples, who do people say that I am? You remember this part? And they answered him, John the Baptist. And others said Elijah, and still others, one of the prophets. And he asked them, but who do you say that I am? Isn't that the heart of the gospel? Who do you say that I am? Now Peter, who everybody thinks is a dope, because that's the way Mark wrote it. Why? Because if Peter's a faithful disciple, but he's a dope, only the people inside get the message. The Romans don't get it. And so the Romans don't go around killing more Christians. See what I'm saying? It's kind of a code in here. But anyway, that's an aside. But the point is, Peter stands in for all of us, faithful people. Peter gets it here. He says, when Jesus says, who do you say that I am? What does Peter say? You are the Messiah, the Anointed, the Christ. So everything leading up to now has been, who am I? Finally, Peter gets it right. You are the Messiah. Now Jesus says, great. Good job, Peter. Now that you know who I am, I can start to tell you what it's all about. That's the message that we get today. Now, Jesus says, here's what it's all about then. Now that you know, then he began to teach them that the Son of Man must undergo great suffering, be rejected by the elders, the chief priests, the scribes, be killed, and after 3 days rise again. He said all this quite openly. Now, can you imagine the look on the disciples' faces when they heard this? Right? They're like, you know, it's not what we think. And now Peter, being Peter, God bless him, he takes Jesus aside, grabs him around the shoulder, says, come on over here. He says, look, boss, here's the deal, right? When I said Messiah, I was talking about someone who's going to come back and restore the throne of David. That's what Messiah means, right, Jesus? You must either, maybe I misheard you, maybe you misspoke, but Jesus, you got it wrong. Didn't you? And what does Jesus say? Oops. What does Jesus say? You got it? No, I don't have it wrong. You got it wrong. Get behind me, he says. Satan, tempter. He's saying, you're wrong because you're so scared. He's saying, you've let the temptations of the world cloud your thinking. He said, you need to stop thinking like a person. You need to stop thinking like the world. You need to start thinking like God. You guys, if you hear nothing else from me or anybody else during Lent, on into Holy Week, up to and including the day of Easter or the Great Vigil, when I will tell you the great news that Christ has risen, up to there, the most important thing I'm going to say for the rest of the time, you can skip church from now on, you heard it here. Except Steve. Get behind me, Satan, tempter. You are setting your mind not on divine things, but on human things. Stop thinking like the world. Start thinking like God. I like what Isaiah says. Isaiah says, for my thoughts are not your thoughts, nor are your ways my ways, says the Lord. For as the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts than your thoughts. You see the point? God's thoughts, not humans' thoughts. That's the point here. Jesus says, you know who I am? Now I'm going to teach you how to think. Stop being concerned. See, the world is worried about what? Name them. Money. Number one. Best, if this were Family Feud. Number one answer. What else? Huh? Yes. Power. Money. Prestige. Winning. That's what winning looks like to the world. Yeah? He who dies with the most toys wins. I hate that. Because it makes me feel so bad. Because I know I can't win. Think like, okay, so here's a question. What would winning look like to God? Number one answer. What do you think it is? Huh? What? Sinless, maybe. I don't know. What would winning look like to God? Being in relationship with God. God would win if everyone was in a relationship with God. Love. If love were what? If love were the driving force, perhaps, that would be winning for God. You see, God, here's the thing, you guys. God is all in. God took God's chips and moved them all in the middle. Said, I'm in. I'm all in. Whatever we think about God, you know that He didn't just twist this thing up, wind it up, and let it go. Why? Because otherwise God wouldn't have spoken, God wouldn't have appeared, God wouldn't lead, God wouldn't have been present, God wouldn't have come to walk among us. Listen, you can't get any more all in than Jesus Christ was. Can you? God's all in. Are you all in? Are you all in your relationships? Are you all in your marriage? Are you all in at your job? Are you all in at church? Are you all in your own life? See, here's the thing. We don't go all in when we're scared. We don't go all in when we don't trust those whom we're in a relationship with. We don't go all in when we're afraid we might lose. We don't go all in if we don't agree with those who are leading. See, we would never go and take Jesus aside and say, hey, listen, boss, you got it wrong. Sorry, good try, but I can't do it. We would never do that. Why? Well, we're not that bold. How do we rebuke Jesus? Indifference. Lip service. Patronizing. Being half in. That's how we live most of our lives. I'll go half in. I'm not betting at all on Jesus. Now, I'm not saying being all in is you got to go get a collar. Absolutely not. Or be on a church board, or give everything away, or go to Haiti and be a missionary. I'm not saying that. The call is to discipleship, not showmanship. God's heart really doesn't care that much about architecture and archbishops. I just don't believe it. What God cares about is self-emptying sacrifice to others. Can I say it again? What God cares about is self-emptying sacrifice to others. The world thinks about money and power and status and winning. And the world invites us to go all in to achieve them. What do you suppose God thinks winning is? What do you suppose God went all in with us?